want me to put that on my Tudor?
Harry's wife. Sack the nanny. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. We turn to the Express with an article by Lauren Welch which tells us Harry's wife and Harry were forced to sack Archie's nanny after incident during the night. Note that they were forced. They had no choice. Once again, the language of the narcissist at play there. Typically, of course, the narcissist will say such things as, "You made me hit you. You caused me to have an affair. It's your fault that I'm not talking to you." As you know, this is because the default setting of the narcissist is that everything is your fault and it is never the fault of the narcissist. And therefore, it is either something or someone else that has resulted in us behaving the way that we have done so. The translation of that victim mentality we have seen many times with Harry's wife, and it is those cowardly mid-range narcissists who have the largest victim mentality of all the sub-schools. This is because, with the lessers, they essentially think of themselves as victims also, of course, but they see themselves as a bit of a rough diamond, a bit of a woo character, someone with edge, perhaps. They regard themselves as a bad boy or a bad girl, somebody that runs with the pack or won't conform to societal norms. And therefore, they don't trade on making themselves seem particularly kind or delightful. They see themselves as a rebel, someone that fights against things and isn't there to be told what to do. Of course, with the greater, a victim mentality, although it's there, it rarely actually makes itself felt because to elicit sympathy is beneath that of the greater. And therefore, the greater doesn't trade on pity plays. You don't see them. The greater doesn't utilise that victim mentality. The greater also doesn't trade necessarily on a Mr. or Miss Nice approach, but rather more associated with greater sweeping actions of brilliance, of generosity, of the flexing of power. But when it comes to the mid-range narcissists, particularly lower and middle mid-range A and middle mid-range B, they very much trade on their facades of being decent enough people. Upper mid-range is a mix of being decent but also superior. They don't do it to the same extent as the lower mid-range or the middle range A or B. But those groupings very much trade on the concept that they are decent people. Excuse me. And therefore, in the circumstances, the fact that they trade on that facade means they really can't comprehend why anybody would ever do anything awful to them. And therefore, if they are moved to be unpleasant, it's because you invited it first, because after all, they are good people. They are kind people. They are indeed empathic people. And if you've caused those particular types of narcissists to have to hit you, have an affair, ignore you, chastise you, or indeed sack you, then you've done something to bring it on yourself, because after all, they wouldn't do it without due cause. The article explains to us Harry's wife and Prince Harry were forced to sack their young son Archie's nanny after a previous nighttime incident. The couple faced the experience with their first nanny, leaving them nervous when they hired their second. The incident left the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, who now also share a 1-year-old daughter, with a lack of trust of the second nanny that they took on. In his book, Biography of the Couple, Finding Freedom, improbably named Plastic-Faced Lieutenant, journalist Omid Scobie recalled the incident. Mr. Scobie and his in-hiding co-author Carolyn Durant wrote, Harry and Harry's wife decided to hire a night nurse to establish a sleep schedule and be an extra pair of helping hands. Now, of course, what we have here is bringing up the past for the purpose of asserting control now through this article. Furthermore, of course, there are many people that do hire nannies, and here is described as a night nurse, albeit why would Harry and Harry's wife need to hire somebody? They don't have proper jobs. It's not like they're actually having to go out and do something and get up early and go and do a proper day's work. In fact, they just swan around, don't they? And one would question the necessity of them hiring somebody. Of course, this is the grandiosity of Harry's wife, and is also indicative of the fact that she isn't a hands-on mother at all, save when there's a camera nearby. In fact, she leaves it to other people because she has no real connection with the children and has no emotional empathy. The article continues that despite this, their time with the couple brief. Not sure what that's meant to mean. They added, Harry's wife and Harry were forced to let the nurse go in the middle of her second night for being unprofessional and irresponsible. Although it doesn't actually say what it is that she's allegedly had done. Was it the case that she didn't roast the chicken properly? Perhaps she put the child in harm in some way. Maybe she'd found some of Harry's joints and indulged and had dozed off, and when the child was crying out, was found to be in a cannabis-induced slumber. Maybe a three-ball had been organised and she didn't pay enough attention to Harry's wife, instead was too busy sliding up and down on Harry's totem pole. The mind can only drift to unsavoury places to determine quite what the unprofessional and irresponsible action was. Perhaps you, valuable viewers, might weigh in with your potential observations in the comments section as to what you think the nurse might have done to merit this. Might it be the simple fact that she was dressed nicely and that therefore threatened the control of Harry's wife, so she had to be dismissed? Perhaps she smiled at Harry, and as a consequence, immediately in the paranoid mind of Harry's wife, was deemed to be flirting with him, and therefore that was a threat to control. Perhaps the nanny was a bit of a sexy nanny. Maybe she was good looking, and therefore Harry's wife felt threatened by that, and therefore her narcissism invented some reason for her being unprofessional and irresponsible. Your thoughts, please, in the comments section. Soon after, the couple hired a second nanny, which left them nervous following the incident with the first hire, even though they were doing a fine job. A segment in Finding Freedom read, neither found themselves comfortable sleeping through the night without going to check on Archie regularly. The couple decided to take on the night duties themselves, but did hire a day nanny who worked weekdays. When the couple lived in the United Kingdom, they agreed that they didn't want their home filled with staff. Therefore, the nanny didn't live at their Frogmore Cottage home. Harry and Harry's wife reportedly liked the idea that their home was cosy and private, as it would just be the three of them at night. Quite why we need to know all of this, we don't. But once again, this is Harry's wife causing something from the past to be brought up. And of course, there's facade management by making it seem like she's a caring parent. And the fact that, of course, it demonstrates the rapid cycling of staff once again, that this nanny only lasted a short time. It's highly likely that the nanny didn't actually do anything wrong, but will have threatened Harry's wife's control in some way, and therefore it was deemed necessary that she had to go. Narcissists invariably have fractious relationships with members of staff, their employees, etc., because of that need for control over them, that there is a risk that the individual will do something which will threaten that need for control, resulting in dismissal. And it happened here. Rather cryptically, we're not told what the reason was, and ultimately it will have been down to the fact that it will have threatened Harry's wife's control in some way. It was likely a trivial matter, but her narcissism trumped it up as possibly suggesting that there was some threat to the child, and therefore the nanny had to go. Of course, the simp that is Prince Harry will have gone along with it, irrespective, because as you all know, what Harry's wife wants, Harry's wife gets. A further example of bringing up the past, and also the capricious nature of the narcissist when dealing with threats to control. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.